So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be talking about electronic flight bags. So what an electronic flight bag is, when you should use it, what the FAA says about it, and kind of all the goodies around it. I will say I did spend a good portion of the weekend pre-recording a bunch of the flights and pre-recording a bunch of the flight bag material, which I'm really thankful for now because the thing that's not working, I had to unplug the thing that I would have actually been showing you had I not pre-recorded. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. And I'm going to move this screen over here. And we are going to get rid of this because we no longer need it. And okay. All right, so here's what we're going to be doing for today. So we have kind of a full agenda. And to be honest with you, I may or may not keep this AE Live up. I may do a pre-recorded so it's cleaner for the regular internet. But here's the agenda we have for today for AE Live. And that is what's an electronic flight bag? What does it replace? Do I still need paper backup charts? People get confused by that. ForeFlight and Garmin Pilot, those are two opposing software products. Tour of ForeFlight, which now we're going to kind of skip. We're going to talk about it during the other videos because I won't be able to show you the video because I had to plug in. Oh, you know what? Actually, I take it back. I am using the A10 Mini for sure for that. I can show you that. Great. And then we'll talk about flight planning and a flight review. Honestly, the flight review, if you're a student pilot or somebody who's looking to fly, the flight review is really one of the key strengths of an electronic flight bag, in my opinion. And then we're going to do a simulated and super fast flight to Atlanta. All right, so let's move on. All right, I promise you this is not going to be a death by PowerPoint presentation, but I do have a couple slides. So, all right. So what is an electronic flight bag? So an electronic flight bag is an electronic information management device that helps flight crews perform flight management tasks more easily and efficiency with less paper. All right, so that's the FAA. So what does that mean? It means instead of having all of this and 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 a whole bunch of other stuff that I didn't even care to bring out. Instead of all of this where you've got to sit there and the air traffic controller says, hey, turn at, intersection KZY. Where's KZY? I don't know where KZY is. And instead, now you have this. Let me see if I can pull this up. Now you've got this. Isn't this cool? And so what I did is before I started tonight, I went ahead and I have a flight from Atlanta to Oshkosh. Any of you that are pilots or have been pilots, this video is being released when Oshkosh is supposed to happen. And unfortunately, we don't have Oshkosh. So instead of all of this, oh, you can't see me now. Hang on. So instead of all of this, we get a nice iPad with all of this goodies. And you can zoom in, you can zoom out. It's a beautiful thing. So let's see here. All right. So that is basically what an electronic flight bag is. It takes all of your paper, your checklists and everything, and it makes it electronic, puts it on the screen. And this is great because there's also one thing that is bad about the paper is that this doesn't change. So when you're in the air, this is already printed. It can't change, right? So they have to have expiration dates, and has there been a modification since the expiration date? That's what we have notice to airmen's for. How are you going to find out if there's been a notice to airman after you took off? Hopefully somebody in air traffic control will tell you, but maybe not. So anyways, this all helps to declutter your cockpit. All right, so let's go over here. All right. And again, we just talked about that. Now, last week we did a lesson on E6Bs, right? And you can see here there's an E6B. And what are they doing, right? They're doing flight planning. The electronic flight, bags, they basically do the flight planning for you. And we're going to go through a flight plan on E6. And so let's see here. All right. So what does the FAA say about electronic flight bags? So there was an advisory circular, also known as an AC, and it first came out in 2006. It had another major revision in 2014, and actually in 2007 it came out. I got that down here. And it's 91-78 for anybody who's interested in taking a look at it. And it basically says that you can use an electronic device to help you be more efficient, right? It's nice to know the FAA isn't sitting with the dinosaurs, and they're taking notice of the advancements that we have in electronics and the safety that those can give us. So one of the big questions that we have usually is, can I use it and not have all this paper, right? Do I need to have this in the airplane? And there I see all the time online, people are arguing, yes, you need to have a backup paper. And the answer is, if you are a private pilot, the answer is no. You don't have to have any backup. And does that mean you shouldn't? I don't think so. I think you should still have paper. I think, but to be honest with you, in my flight bag, there's not going to be any more paper. So I'm actually going to take back what I just said. So what they say is, if you look down here, it says it is suggested that a secondary or backup source be available to the pilot in the aircraft. And so what they don't say is, first of all, they don't say you have to. They say it's suggested. So you're not going to get pulled over by the FAA and given a ticket if you don't have a secondary. Also, it doesn't say you have to have a printed version of your backup. And so what most of the electronic flight bag application vendors will do is they will give you a license for 2 iPads and 1 phone. And so what most people will do is they will keep another copy of the software on their phone, and they'll keep another copy on a second, older maybe iPad. And so that is their backup. So, but the answer, if you hear this question, the answer is no, you do not need a backup. Okay. All right. So there really is 2 major electronic flight bags. So the first one is by a company called ForeFlight. And anybody who thinks that they're just some small little rinky-dink operation, they're owned by Boeing. So, they started a long time ago, going on almost 2 decades ago when the iPhone, came out and BlackBerries came out. And their first application really just gave you METAR information. It was really basic. It was nothing like we have today. And then you have Garmin Pilot. That's the second major one. And so you hear Garmin, think of the G1000, which is in most airplanes, the G5s. It is a major player in airplane avionics. I will say that ForeFlight, in my opinion, maybe some people in Garmin will disagree with me, but they'll be happy about what I'm going to say in a second. The ForeFlight definitely had the jump. And Garmin Pilot is a later comer. They've been out for a little while now, but they definitely were not as long as ForeFlight. So ForeFlight has built in a lot of things that Garmin hasn't, at least from a little while ago. Garmin, seeing the fact that ForeFlight has literally taken over this market, has really put a lot of effort into making an app that's really becoming pretty incredible itself. Now, tonight we're going to focus on ForeFlight. If you would like me to do another lesson on Garmin Pilot, I actually do have Garmin Pilot on my iPad, and I can run that as well. But just let me know. All right. Tour of ForeFlight. All right. So let's take a look at what ForeFlight is. All right. So this is not a video. You can see I can move it around. This is live. So you're going to see me looking over to the side here. Actually, you won't see me look because my camera's not on. All right. So over on ForeFlight, this is its maps page. So on the very bottom, let me move the microphone over here so I don't sound light. So on the very bottom, you're going to see where it says airports, maps, plates, documents, imagery. That's kind of like your desktop, right? So if I'm going to push down airports, we can see I have 3 airports that have been listed. I have Dulles International because I want to fly to the Air and Space Museum as soon as everything reopens. So I've been working on that flight. I have our hometown airport where our CAP squadron meets, which is the Greenville Downtown Airport, KGMU. And then I also have a dream to fly to the Grand Canyon. If anybody wants to go with me, it's 10 hours each way. So probably stop to go to the bathroom a few times and refuel. But that's a 10-hour flight. So if that's something you're interested in, hit me up. Maybe we can share some fuel. Anyway, so if you click, we'll click on Greenville, since that's where our squadron is located here. And you'll see all the information. If you click on the diagram, you can see the diagram. You can make it bigger. Now, here's one of the cool things, right? So, and I'm going to talk about this later too. But see where it says tap to view 2 NOTAMs, right? So if you click on that, it's going to tell you that there is some taxiways that are closed. Now, if you had a printed version of this, you would never see that, right? You would have to get those NOTAMs from the FAA. So that's very cool. All right, let's close this out. All right, and then you can also see some information. You can get weather advisory, the ATIS information, ground. You can really, the tower frequencies. You can see, also here you can see the hours operations. These are all things that you know would be in the different manuals and charts that you have, but now they're all right here. Here, weather, you can see the current weather information that's at Greenville, the METAR, the TAF. Right now, it's currently VFR. You can see the winds. Now, I actually love this because it also see here, rapid temperature drop possible, unstable air. It tells you right on there, right? So if you're flying someplace and you don't know where you're really going, and you're going to, well, hopefully you know where you're going. But you know, you're flying someplace and you want to stop off, for whatever reason, you have a maintenance issue with the aircraft and you get taken care of, and you want to go to an airport that's closer to you rather than your destination. You don't have to sit there and look through all of the, you don't have to sit there and actually, you know what? I can switch you, and I can't. You can, I'm thinking of what I still have access to with my other camera down. You have access to all this information without, fumbling. You might have a rough sounding engine and you're so worried about that engine. Now you got to reach into your flight bag. One, what are your procedures, right, for that engine? You got to go through the pilot's operating handbook. And we're going to show here, you can actually do that through your electronic flight bag. And also you have to pull out all your maps and all your flight directories and airport directories to look up, frequencies. And, it's a really stressful time, and you've got some passengers maybe in the airplane. They don't want to see a pilot freaking out and rustling through all these books and, hey, in my bag, hand me the green book, so it's going to freak them out even more. So anyways, so this is, let me go back to that. All right, iPad full. All right. All right, now you're seeing the iPad again. All right, so that's that. Now you can also see the runways. I absolutely love this. So if you go to the runways, it will actually tell you, if you notice, we're almost right in the middle. It'll say best wind, right? So based on the wind, runway 1, it's saying is the best wind, and there's a 3-knot crosswind and a 7-knot headwind. It also tells you that it's almost 5,400. It's 100 feet wide, and it is excellent condition. It also will tell you that there is a ForeFlight PAPI on the left-hand side of the runway, and it uses the lighting and 1,400-foot medium intensity and sequenced flashers. And so this is fantastic. Now, here's one thing that's really important, especially if the winds are kind of variable. Just because the app says that runway is the best wind, it doesn't mean that that's the runway in use. Tune into your common traffic, see if there's a flight pattern kind of already pre-established, or obviously check with the tower or approach if you're obviously coming in IFR. they'll tell you well in advance what runway to expect. So that's a lot of great information. You go to the procedures. You can see the departure procedures. You can see the stars, and you can see the approach plates. So this said, runway 1. So if we wanted to look at runway 1, all of a sudden, boom, there we go. I don't have to change books I'm looking at. I don't have to try to, flip through anything. It might be in the middle of the night. I don't have to have my red flashlight out trying to read small print. I might not be able to read this, but oh my goodness, look at that. I can make it bigger. So it's so easy. And it's going to get even easier. So then we go to the maps. All right. We're going to talk more about this in a second. But right now, as you can see on the top here, we are going to Oshkosh, and it's going to take us 4 hours and 41 minutes from where I currently am. And at the bottom, we're going to go to plates. These are just a couple plates that I have saved. You'll see 2 for Dulles. You'll see 1 for Atlanta. Imagery. All right. Here's all your prognostic charts, right? And then flights, and we'll go through this in a second. But here you can see that I created a quick flight from Greenville to Atlanta. So this is largely now, you can also do, I don't use this for this. I wish I had, different story for different day. But you can use a logbook on here too, and then it saves it online. So, all right, and then you can do track logs, and we're going to show that in a second. So we'll go back to the map. And it's really nice, right above all those icons, you can see where it says distance to the next, ETA to the destination, your current ground speed, your GPS altitude. It doesn't know what you have in the in the barometer on your aircraft. It just knows your altitude from GPS, and what the bearing, your next bearing is going to be, magnetic bearing. And now accuracy, you can actually see 1 meter, right? In a real airplane, you're not going to get 1 meter, right? But you're probably still going to get 10, 15, 20 meters. And here you can see you've got 1 meter, and it even put X-plane up in the accuracy. And I love this. So where it says nearest barometer, I have that plugged in. And so I know that the nearest barometer station is reporting a 30.03. So this way, if you're ever wondering, hey, what's the barometer in the local area? Now you know. Real easy to see, tons of great information. All right, so let's go back to the PowerPoint here. All right, so hopefully I still got you. All right. All right, so now we're going to look at the integration with X-plane. This is why I'm glad I pre-recorded this. This wouldn't work with my camera breaking down. What you do is you go into X-plane, and you can go into settings. And oh, by the way, this is the same thing for Garmin Pilot. But if you go into X-plane and you go into their settings, and you go into network, and then you scroll down, and you'll see where it says other mapping apps. And then you're going to see right there, oops. Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry. What happened? Oh, I gotta go back. Sorry. All right, there we go. Let me start again. I wanted to pause and it skipped me to the next slide. All right, so you're gonna go to transmit to a single mapping app. You'll give it the IP address of your iPad. Don't change the port. And click on done. And then you'll start your flight. And then what'll happen is you will go back live. Then what's going to happen is the flight simulator, and Microsoft Flight Simulator will do this as well, especially the new one. Really excited. For those of you who are into flight simulation, you all know that the new Microsoft Flight Simulator is coming out literally in a couple of weeks from the time we recorded this. It looks absolutely stunning. To be honest with you, on a smaller screen, if I was recording and it didn't have it full screen, you might have a hard time being able to tell that I recorded something on a GoPro inside of a camera versus recording it in Microsoft Flight Simulator. There'll be some shots, obviously, you'll be able to tell really easy. But the general shots, really, it's unbelievably great. So anyways, but that allows them to both send their data to the iPad. And so this way, that's how you trick the iPad. Now, what's great about this is if you want to train, like anything with aviation, you don't want to be trying it for the first time inside the airplane, right? So you want to have lots of time trying it out on the ground. Doesn't cost you any fuel, doesn't cost you any money with an instructor. It doesn't cost you any, you don't have to buy me a burger to sit in the right-hand seat to make sure that, you don't put the airplane in a 90-degree bank, as you're looking down at your iPad trying to figure something out. So these are all great things. You can practice and practice and practice. All right. So let's go now to the next thing we were going to do. Okay. So this next one is flight planning. So flight planning is super simple. Now, one thing I do want to say, actually, I'll try to talk while I'm showing this here. I like to do the flight planning on the website. You can do all of this almost identically on the app. I find that I can click and save and move things around on their website. You have an account, and so you do all this work. And so here I'm going to put, the date, the time. So this was earlier today, and I'm going from Greenville to Oshkosh. I want to go to Oshkosh. I didn't put an alternate in there, but now you're going to see airplane performance. I have a 182, and then routes. This is one of the great things. So here you only see one route, but if you're going to a lot of different airports, sometimes you'll see 7, 8, 9, 10 routes, and you can pick one. Now the altitude, let me pause this for a second here because this is awesome. So this will automatically get the winds aloft, and it will calculate your headwinds at the different, a headwind, a tailwind, whatever the winds are going to be. And it'll tell you your your estimated time en route, your fuel burn. It'll tell you all this information. Now here, this altitude advisor, these are all relatively close to each other. They're not that different. But there is sometimes where the wind will shift dramatically, or it will get, it'll go from 10 knots to 40 knots or more. And so this altitude advisor really will help you pinpoint exactly, what altitude is best for you to fly in. Now, here you could see that, I'm going to lose 10 minutes. I could have got to Atlanta a little faster if I went to 2,000 feet. But, that's only 1,000 feet off the ground, right? So if I lost an engine, I'm not going to have very far to be able to glide. And so, I might say, I'll chew up the 2 gallons, 1.5 gallons of gas and the extra 10 minutes, and I'll fly 8,000 feet just so I can get a little bit better glide in case something happens. Okay. And again, here you review it, take a look at your estimated time and routes, how much fuel you're going to burn, figure out what's going to work well for you, and go ahead and select it, and away you go. And again, this is actually one. Now, imagine how hard this would be if you had to get all this information, had to calculate all this information by hand. It would really be a pain in the neck. And even there, so I'm kind of thinking about it. Okay. So now once we're here, you can look at the FBO. It'll tell you here, there's only one FBO, and here's the prices. It's $4.59 for low lead, which isn't too horrible. And there we go. We got our flight. The next thing we're going to do is we can see here what I'm doing next. Yep, we're looking at the distance. This is going to Oshkosh. And let's see here, where do I want to go next? Proceed to file. So if this was a real airplane and I was really going to do this, I would click on proceed to file. Obviously this is simulated, so you do not want to do proceed to file. Otherwise, somebody might get a nasty call that, hey, where are you? Why aren't you flying? All right, so this is the map. So here's our track to Oshkosh. Now this I think is so cool, right? So you can do fuel, and you can look for where there is cheaper fuel on your route. And going to Oshkosh, I'd probably want to get fuel before I got there. Oshkosh fuel can be expensive. And look at that. There's a place really close to our route. It is $3.36 a gallon. All I got to do is move that over a little bit. It's going to say, hey, where are you sure? Where do you want to go? RZL? All right, click on that. And RZL is now in our route. So now we can fly to RZL and we can get that cheap gas. We like cheap gas. All right. So next thing we want to do is there's a bunch of different things we can look at. We can look at the different radars. We can look at aeronautical maps, the map theme, whether you want it light or dark, icing, turbulence. There was a little bit of turbulence along our route right there. And so you can take a look right there. That's just some light turbulence between Oxfat and Zorro. So it's good to know. By the time you get there, it may not have any turbulence. And if we zoom down towards Greenville, we're actually not seeing any turbulence, which was nice. We had some puffy clouds out today. I would have expected a little bit of turbulence, but nothing that showed up on the map, which is nice. Also, if you do get PIREPs do show up on this map. And now you can also look at the weather. The weather is overlaid, which is super nice. Again, you can't do that with one of these. It doesn't give you the weather on top of it. And again, any good flight planning, you're going to, since this is a 6-hour flight, you're going to take a look at all of your precipitation and your convective outlooks, prognostic charts, and you're going to take a look to see where everything's going to be over the next, 6 hours, 6 to 12 hours. And, convective outlooks again, here's your, they're calling for thunderstorms, marginal. And so you got to watch out that one little spot. You're going to be going kind of clipping through the corner of that. It is moving to the east, so it might move out of the way by the time we get there. And here you can see our entire plan of action there, our entire flight log. So next thing we have here, so now you can see we're going to delete an old one that I had created just so it doesn't get confused. And now we're going to take a look at the nav log. So this is actually your flight plan. And so if you wanted to, you can print this out. Now imagine doing this by hand. So imagine you have your E6B and you're doing all of this by hand on a long flight like the Oshkosh. One, it would take you probably longer than the flight to Oshkosh to do that. And then the next thing I think is really cool is the weather briefing. Believe it or not, this actually constitutes a legal FAA weather briefing. If something were to happen to you and the aircraft, one of the first things the FAA says, or your insurance agency says, is, did you get a briefing? And this actually gets tracked and logged as long as you go through all the unread sections. So if you look over here on the left-hand side, you'll see unread sections. So as long as you go through all the unread sections, and actually here I'm looking, there's low IFR reported along the route. You can actually saw on the map up above, I'm going to show that real quick again. You can see up here that there is green for VFR, blue for marginal, red for IFR, and purple for low IFR. So this actually caused me a problem in a later video I'm going to show. And I think I kept it in so we can talk about it. But this will show you that along the route, we're leaving, we're mostly VFR along the route. And so then we get up toward Indianapolis and Chicago before we get to Madison. And we'll see that, it looks like the clouds are a little bit lower. So remember before we said we wanted to get fuel over here? Well, that may not be a good spot to get fuel. We may be in a situation of having lower clouds. And so we may end up wanting to actually get fuel before that area. So again, this is all great information to have. Now, personally, I'm an instrument-rated pilot, so I would still land at an airport as long as the airplane could support it. All right, so this is your METARs. And again, I talked about the PIREPs. Here it's going to talk about all the PIREPs. Now, obviously, there's a lot of them. Here's all your forecasts, your cloud coverage. SKC means sky clear. Cumulus cirrus, and then our visibility and our winds. And man, this thing just tells you everything. Look how great this thing is. Here's our terminal area forecasts and the forecast for our flight, with the exception of one spot that's going to be marginal VFR. Everything else looks green, so it looks good to me. And then we're going to take a quick look at our wind chart. Oh, we did see an IFR spot there. We'll make note of that. Now here's our wind chart. And what's great about this is not only do we get a wind chart like you would get from the FAA, we see our actual plot of our flight plan along that wind chart. This now gives you a vertical cross. So as you gain altitude, it's going to tell you where the train is to make sure you don't hit the ground. And it's going to tell you, at different heights, how fast that wind is. Again, all great stuff. And then we have our notice to airmen. And let me go to the next screen here. So that's about it for this one. All right, so now here, we're gonna do a quick demo of it. So over on the right-hand side, you are going to see a simulator from X11 with our cap airplane here. Got our G1000. I don't know, what do you guys think? Do you think if I do good on this flight, can I get Form 5 certified? What do you think? But as we're testing it, we can look at on the iPad, you're going to see the map. Now that you're going to see the map, you're going to see the airplane. This is what's called geo-referenced. And so the maps are geo-referenced. And so you'll actually see the airplane right on the map. And now you're going to see me kind of go in high speed here because nobody wants to watch me taxi for 5 minutes. We're going to use runway 1. And so there we go. And here's the map view. Now, this thing is great, right? So it's like GPS in your car. Thankfully, it's not like Waze. We don't have to worry about where the police are. Now, notice here it said approaching runway 1. I love this. So if your eyes are looking down and maybe you have to cross runway, we're going to see that a little bit later. You are going to be able to, it'll warn you, right? So now it has checklists. So you don't have to have all of these checklists in your hand, reading through everything. And you can literally just go through all of this. And hopefully I'm actually following along the checklist. I'm actually doing the checklist. We set our transponder. All right, we got our before takeoff done. All right, now it says approaching runway 1, and now it says entered runway 1. And there's 5,300 feet remaining. This is all great information if you're unfamiliar with the airport. All right, now we're going to zoom out, and we are going to take off. Now we are going to do super takeoff. I'm going to make this times 8. So this way we can get through these videos quickly and we don't bore you. Here we'll do the quick normal takeoff checklist, the normal climb list. Now what I'm going to do for this quick video is I'm going to do some, I'm going to stay in the pattern. We're going to do a couple of quick touch and goes. We'll do 3 quick touch and goes. And again, we can see down the bottom, the barometric pressure is 311. And we're not actually going to follow where the flight plan said to take us. So we're going to ignore the distance to next. Now, here's going to be the great thing. This is what I want you to get out of this. This is why if you are becoming a pilot, if you're starting to learn how to fly, or maybe you're just out practicing, you're not going on a big flight, and you think to yourself, I don't really need, I know where I'm going. I know where I'm coming from. I've been at the airport 2,000 times. I don't need all this information, right? Here's why I would try to ask you to actually take a look and bring it. Because this is tracking it. If you notice over here, there's a record, right? And so it's going to record your entire flight. It's going to record you horizontally and it's going to record you vertically. Now, there's one thing I noticed there. And it's all, I'm hoping it's because it's just a simulator and I don't have the outside cues. I can't look out the window. But I didn't turn in quick enough. I was straight pretty good, but I didn't turn in quick enough. Now, here's the other thing, too, that I think is awesome, right? So you get synthetic vision. So the same way that you would have your screen on the G1000, look at this. On your iPad, you're actually, to be honest with you, you're almost getting more information on the iPad version than you are on your $50,000 G1000. This is not getting the information from the airplane, by the way. This is getting the information from the GPS that is inside of your iPad. And so it is, you could have this G1000 fail and you would still have your iPad. And I'm going to show it a little bit later that you can make this full screen. And so this is fantastic, right? So yes, we have our backup attitude indicator over here, but this is fantastic because what is this showing us? This is showing us the terrain. The yellow means that we're within 1,000 feet of it. and green means we're above 1,000 feet, right? So that's why you're seeing it. And when you get to red, that means you're either below it or you're within 100 feet of it. You're going to see that a little bit later. Now, take a look at my pattern here. That pattern looks much better, right? We have I didn't go out to the side, right? We had nice base, right? We're going to turn final here. But look at this final. I did it again, right? I overshot. I delayed the turning onto final, and now I have to course correct. Again, if you're flying by yourself, you may do this if you're just practicing, and you may not even realize that you did it. You're just so in the habit of doing it. But when you see this recorded and you go and play it back, you can go, wow, I am consistently overshooting my final, and I have to cut it back. Now, also notice this. Now, you could be in the middle of the clouds, right? Your iPad doesn't know this. This is not an IFR-approved device. That being said, if you had a complete dark cockpit, everything went. First of all, if you're having a really bad day, if everything goes, right? Now, if you're in a normal airplane that's IFR certified, you're kind of in trouble. Also, notice in the background, see the red mountains? That means you're at or below 100 feet. So at least with the iPad, it's not ideal. It's not certified to fly into known IFR. But if you have an emergency, you make use of whatever you have in the cockpit. And so this is a wonderful thing. All right. So we're going to go high speed again, and we are going to make one more zoom around. And then after this, we have just one more video to show you. And that's about 10 minutes. So we are going to finish probably pretty close to on time. One thing I wanted to show you here is what happens when you land. Now, notice there, I kind of killed the base. So I kind of just made it a teardrop, and then I went in. So again, but I did it again, right? I almost overshot it again, but I kind of cut it in a little bit, and there we go. So now, when you slow down and on the runway, it automatically brings you the airport diagram. And so once the airport diagram's up, it shows you your airplane on the airport diagram, and then you can figure out where you want to go. Now, notice it also said Greenville Jet Center, right? It's telling you where the FBO is. Now, I decided not to go to the FBO because I saw a fuel truck over here, and I was going to wave them down. I was going to, try to slip them $10 and see if he could just give me that. So give me fuel right there without having to go to the FBO. So then we just do our quick shutdown of the aircraft. We go through our checklist. Now, check this out. So let me pause this 1 second. So after the flight is over, you can go into the track logs, which will be on the bottom right-hand corner. You'll see here where it says track logs. And you can see all the flights I've done. You can see I have a flight to Seattle. You can see the one I did a little bit later to Atlanta. And that was at 1.5 hours. But you see we only took 0.4 hours from startup to shutdown. That's not too bad for 3 touch and goes. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to see a replay of what we did. So there we can see our taxiing, and we get on the runway, we take off. Yep, and sure enough, right? So why is this all this valuable? This is valuable because if you're learning or if you're practicing, you can really get a good feel for how you performed. Were you doing a holding pattern? How good was your holding pattern? Now, in addition to showing a horizontal, I love this. You can see the vertical, right? And it gives you your altitude and your speed, and it overlays that on top. So let's say you're a CFI. How great would it be, to show a student pilot, hey, you were holding good altitude. You weren't going up too high. You weren't too low underneath the traffic pattern altitude. How were your speeds? Were you holding your speed consistent? Obviously, I was doing about 5 different things here at once. So that was a little sloppy for me. I'm also not a big flight simmer. But that would be a little sloppy for me, but that'd be great if you were a student pilot. You could sit down, review this on your own. You could review this with your CFI to really fine tune what you were doing. All right. So let's do one more. Let's see here. Is this my flight to Atlanta? Let's see here. I want to make sure I don't show you the same thing. Oh, yep, this is Atlanta. Okay. So again, here we're setting up the airplane, And let me see if I can go forward. So here you can see that we've already set the flight plan. I showed you that earlier. Here we're taxiing to runway 1 again, just like before. Again, it shows us the approaching runway 1. Now, I tell you what, guys, we've got about 8 minutes left, give or take. So if you have any questions that you would like to ask, feel free to go ahead and put them into the chat, and I can help to answer them once we are done. Also, I want you to let me know, is this helpful for you in the way that you would want to see the same type of information for the Garmin Pilot app? Obviously, this is very much ForeFlight focused, but would you be interested in seeing this for Garmin Pilot? Okay, so all of this is going to be very, very similar, and so we're going to go on super cruise speed here, and I'm going to cut this up a lot because obviously I don't want you to have to sit here for, a 45-minute flight. Okay, here we can see the normal takeoff. All right, we're going through our checklists, our climb. All right. And we're cutting around. All right. And again, this is really nice because if you were doing a cross-country flight, maybe you're a student pilot and you're doing your cross-country flight, you could your CFI is not going to be there for your cross-country solos. And so what you can do is you can really sit down and you can show them exactly what you did, which would be really great. You can talk about specific points. If you notice right here where it says scratch pads, you can actually write on the map and you'll actually point out exactly. So this way, if you review something later on, you can review it with your instructor, or you can make notes for yourself. Maybe there was something that you should have did a little different. You know what? This is the same flight. Yep. Oh, hang on. Let me go to the next one. There we go. All right, now we're going to go to Atlanta. Sorry about that. All right, so if we go here, we're going to go hyperspeed. We're going to go from us to Atlanta. Here you can see there was more routes. Look at the winds, and we picked that. We got our FBO. Gas is really expensive at Atlanta. All right, now we're going to see our nav log. Obviously, it's not nearly as long because Atlanta is really close to us as opposed to Oshkosh. There's the maps of the 2 airports. Okay. Get familiar with that. Get our weather briefing. Again, we're going to go super speed because you guys have already seen all this. Don't want to bore you. All right. Everything looks green. Right. The terrain, right? We're getting a little close to that terrain, but I'm not going very high. I'm only going 3,500. This is also the highest point, right? So that's not the general terrain. There might be a tower or something that's, spiking that up above the ground. Here are NOTAMs, our Aerospaces. All right, we're good. Now we put that on the map, and away we go. This is a very simple flight. All right, now I can look at, see all the, I can kind of get an idea of which runway they're going to use based on the winds. All right, I can take a look at the fuel, right? In case maybe Greenville is really expensive and Atlanta is really expensive, and this is the only time I'm going to fly for the week. So I know that they had the $3.89 there. So if I wanted to, I could move us from ODF to wherever that $3.89 is. Here you can see the route advisor. It can show us the different routes we could take. Very similar to if you were on, GPS in your car, right? It might give you a highway route, right? A local road route. But here you can quickly change your mind if you want to, land at kind of an alternate airport to get some cheaper fuel and save yourself some money. Fuel is expensive, right? So here, so what do you think, Selden? Think anybody would freak out if I actually taxied down the taxiway that fast? So here again, we can look right on the map. We can look at the profile, make sure that we can go over everything. It'll also show us the airspaces there as well. We can zoom in. That'll give us a close-up map. Right here, we're going to add the, if you look at the actual X11, you'll see I'm just adding all of those waypoints into the G1000. Now, here's actually a really good important point I didn't mention before. So the airplane can talk to the iPad. The flight simulator can talk to the iPad. The iPad has no communication back. So you can't plug in a flight plan. You can't take your flight plan that you used on ForeFlight and have it get sent to the iPad. Garmin Pilot may be changing that, but not ForeFlight. If you have a G1000 and you have Garmin Pilot, they're working on being able to communicate. That's going to be something, honestly, that's going to be a big draw, because you can do your entire flight plan. You can do your entire flight planning on your iPad or on your website, move it to your iPad, and then upload it to the airplane. So much easier. All right, so now here we can see on the profile, we see the peaks. So we do see some stuff that's bumping up in the yellow. So we have to keep our eyes out. Again, since it's yellow and not red, that means we are above it. But you can see the general terrain is well below us. There's just maybe a tower or two. And then you'll see us on our route. Now, obviously, I'm going to cut this up a little bit. I'm going to hyperspeed it. But again, here we can see on the left-hand side, we see our synthetic vision. This actually gives us, again, I think more information than what the G1000 gives us. We can see what the terrain looks like on the ground. We can actually see those radio antennas. I think in a second, I actually zoom into them just to take a look at them. And then in the far distance, you can see the yellow and the red, right? So that means there's some mountains over to the right of us. And if we stayed at this altitude and we made a right degree correction, now you can see how I went full screen with that synthetic vision. You can see those mountains really clearly. So I can't go to the right without climbing. I would end up hitting those mountains. Okay. So now we're going to go on hyperspeed, and I'm going to cut some time out here. But again, also on the top, you're going to notice that we had the weather right on it. Now that we're flying, I'm going to start taking a look at what's in Atlanta. They're might tell me to expect a terminal approach, and or to expect a certain runway. And so I am going to now take a look at that. Now, since I have it set up on the iPad, I'm also going to set it up in the G1000. There we go. We're going to go for ILS 26 right, and we have, we're going to go to the initial approach fix. We're going to load it. We're not going to activate it because we're still flying our regular route. Now notice on, notice the map. That instrument approach is actually now overlaid onto the map, and it's geo-referenced. So it's actually the right size. So those approach fixes actually line up with the map, which is crazy cool. Now you can see here we jumped ahead and we're waiting for air traffic control to tell us. Notice the rings with 25 nautical miles, 10 nautical miles, 5 nautical miles. You can put this on. Now, if you're a VFR pilot and you want to say, you're landing at a general aviation airport, you can say really easy, hey, I'm 10 nautical miles to the west, because you have these rings and you'll know real quickly. I know that when I was first starting to learn how to fly, it was a challenge for me because I didn't know where everything was and how far away everything was on the map. And so it was hard for me to tell folks, yeah, hey, listen, I'm 5 nautical miles away. I'm 10 nautical miles, right? So now here we just got cleared by approach into Atlanta to begin the ILS approach. And so you'll see that we just turned direct for Zelo. And again, we're going to speed it up here pretty quick because nobody wants to watch this for 10 minutes as we go to Zelo. But again, the one thing I want you to notice is that we just jumped all the way to Zelo. So this is all now geo-referenced. So that airplane on that map and on the chart are exactly in the right place, which honestly I think is unbelievable. Also, if you look at the nose of the airplane, you'll see the little green triangles that shows you where your airplane, your extended line for your airplane is. All right. And we're going to slowly line up, right? We actually just picked up, we just switched over from GPS over to the ILS. So the airplane is starting to track that slowly. Again, the great thing with the synthetic vision on the left-hand side, we get information that we don't see otherwise. We can see where those radio towers are. Where now it's telling us, hey, here's the, if you didn't already have it, the ATIS is at 119.65. and then we will continue this approach. Again, I'm going to speed this up here for you. So what do you guys think? Is this some pretty cool stuff? Or do you think we should go back to paper? So what do you think? And oh, by the way, let's talk about cost for a second. So there's 3 different versions, right? So I have the middle version, right? The cheapest version is $100. Here we're doing our descent and our pre-landing checklist. And the cheapest is $100. If you're an instrument pilot and you want these maps to be able to go on top of your moving map and georeference, that's the next step up. That's $200 a year. And then there's another one that's $300. And frankly, unless you're like independently wealthy, I don't really see the value of the $300 one. You can, where it showed you before the map, it can basically make it look like a flight simulator. Which is pretty neat. If you want to see it, it's called Performance Pro package. You can look that up on YouTube. You see it. But again, check us out. We get lower, right? So now the land's going to start turning yellow. And it's doing that because of the trees, right? The trees are higher than the ground. Now it just gave us the 500 feet above ground level. But even if we were in the clouds, right, we would still have this great reference. Now, we still need to be using our primary instruments. We can't use this as our primary. But what a great secondary piece of information if we couldn't see outside and we were still 1,000 feet in the clouds. Again, we slowed down, right? So as soon as you slow down, automatically popped up that map, shows you where it is. And now you see here, it says approaching runway, right? So this way you don't cross that runway. It warns you, hey, you're about to taxi across a runway. So you had better gotten the clearance across that runway. All right. And so in here, we're going to continue to fast forward here through to our final location. I think that is about it. We have a little bit left, maybe 1 more minute left. And here we're parked. Now, again, before we can go to the track log and we can see exactly our path, how we went, and we could now review this with our friends. Maybe you're doing a vlog about your flight. You could put this on your vlog. I know that I'm actually, I'll give everybody a little hint. I am looking to buy an airplane. So if I get to buy that airplane here at some point in the future, I am looking to do a lot of flight vlogs. And so we'll be able to show these, in our vlog, which is really neat. All right, well, that is it for this. So let me go back to the live. All right, that's it. So what questions do you all have? Let me get rid of this. And so I can see your questions. All right. I got a couple questions here. Great. Let's see here. All right. No Garmin for me since I use ForeFlight. All right, so that's what Selden said. I got to be honest with you. I've only been using ForeFlight for so long. Because this was Oshkosh this week and we didn't get to go to Oshkosh, unfortunately, I've been watching tons of training videos online that all the vendors have been doing as a virtual air show. And so I saw a couple of videos from Garmin Pilot. I have started playing with it. Let me pull it up real quick because I actually can show this real quick. I shut down my my X-Plane 11. So I won't be able to show it georeferenced, but this is Garmin Pilot. But take a look at the bottom. It looks an awful lot like ForeFlight, right? You got maps, flight plan, airports, charts, trip planning, logbook, weather, right? Direct, right? And instead of having all the speeds and your cross tracks and ETA, ETE, all that information at the bottom, they put it at the top, but it's also very, very similar. And so, here you can get your METAR information. I will say though, in Selden, I'm with you 100% that we're used to ForeFlight, and we're not used to the Garmin. But Garmin is really kind of, they're getting better fast. And so we'll have to see what this is going to be a battle between these two. And again, it's not like, Garmin, the big company, and this little tiny ForeFlight. ForeFront's something totally different. So ForeFlight. So it's not like this little tiny ForeFlight company versus this big behemoth of Garmin. It's Garmin versus Boeing, right? Both of them are fighting for their respective spots. And so that is going to be an awesome thing for us in general aviation, because it's going to make sure both of them are moving forward. All right, could an iPhone be a substitute for an iPad while using ForeFlight? And the answer is absolutely. You're going to lose. So let's talk about sizes for a quick second. We've got a few minutes before 8 o'clock. And if we go a few minutes over, I apologize. But that's a great question. So, what should you get, right? So you really have three options. You have an iPad. You have the full iPad, right? The 10-inch iPad. You can use a Pro if you had a really big airplane. You could fit it a Pro, the 12-inch. But most people have the 10-inch iPad. You have the iPad Mini. And you have an iPhone, right? Pretty much around the 172 line. If you're at a 172 or smaller size aircraft, most people will recommend to get an iPad Mini. A full-size 10-inch iPad is just a little too big for the airplane. It seems unwieldy inside the cockpit. So a lot of people recommend to get the iPad Mini. Me personally, I like the big screen, so I would probably still use a regular iPad. But there is a lot of people, what they will do is they will also use their iPhones. And so what they'll do is they'll kind of put the iPhone right in the corner of their window. And then they will put an iPad on the yoke. And so they'll have different information. Again, with the subscription, this is true for both Garmin Pilot as well as ForeFlight. Now I'm going to keep saying Forefront now because Forefront's in my head. But with ForeFlight is you get 2 iPads, you get 1 iPhone. And so what most folks will do is you will usually put, you could have 1 iPad, big iPad. You could also have an iPad sitting on your knee, like a knee board. So maybe you want to have different information. You might want to have just the synthetic vision up on one. You might want to have the moving map maybe on the yoke, maybe on your phone attached to the yoke. And then maybe you want the full-size charts that are dedicated to your charts sitting on your knee. You can use all 3. It's great. There's something else you can use. You can use a 4th device, and you can use as many of these devices as you want. The 4th device is another application, and so it's ForeFlight makes it. I don't know if Garmin has it. It's called ForeFlight Passenger, and it's free. And what it does is it ties to your iPad, and it gets the information from the iPad. So this way, if you say have passengers in the back seat, they can you can put. I saw one person, they actually attached an iPad to the back of the seat, right? So their kids basically in the back, they could play games on the iPad, and if they wanted to, they could quickly go and they could go to iPad ForeFlight Passenger, and it doesn't give them all the information, obviously, that ForeFlight does. But what it does is it gives them kind of like we'd see like if you were in an airline seat, right? So if you're flying American Airlines, right, you just want to see where you are and how long it's going to take you to get where you're going. And so they will allow you to do that from passenger, which is really awesome. Let's see here. So yes, you definitely can use an iPhone. And let's see here. I'm seeing yes to both. All right. So what I'll do is I will create a second video. What I'm going to do is because we have no AE Live next week. We have character development next week. So what I'll do is I'll make a more concise video just for Garmin Pilot, and I'll contrast the two. It'll be a little bit more succinct because I'll be able to edit it and really, be more clear in what I'm trying to say, as opposed to being live and thinking off the top of my head, basically. And I'll put that up for next Monday. And so this way you feel free to watch it whenever you want. If you're not in our CAP squadron, you can watch it on Monday. I'll set it up as a premiere, so I'll be online with it when it starts at 7 o'clock next Monday. But if you are in our squadron and you're a cadet and you want to still watch it, don't miss character development. Go to character development, and the video will be there when you're done. You can watch it sometime that week. Let's see. Everyone, please select like. Yes, please. We still have a couple people still here. And for those of you that watch this later, if you've gotten it all the way here, we're an hour in. So, and if you struggled in the beginning with me with my broken camera, which I have to fix because it's an expensive camera. I'm not sure why that's not working. But I appreciate the patience, but if you're still here, yeah, do me a favor. Hit that like button, and then also hit that subscribe button. We're at 285 subscribers like in 3 or 4 months. I'm really shocked by that. So, I really, if we can get to 300 subscribers, I don't know why. It doesn't mean anything to anybody, but I like numbers. So, I'd be happy to get to 300. All right, let's see here. Are there any other companies coming out with flight planning apps that could be better than ForeFlight and Garmin? You know what? That's a great question. You don't know, right? I don't know. Those really seem to be the two juggernauts. Now, the problem is that both of them are so well established that there could be other niche markets, right? And maybe they really, maybe they go for sailplanes. Maybe they have information for hot air balloons, right? That wouldn't make sense for ForeFlight or Garmin Pilot. But right now it does seem like that's, I see some here. I used iFly GPS for years, but it was originally a dedicated device. They later added Apple and Android devices. It's a smaller company. Thank you, Selden. Yeah, even Garmin, right? When I first started flying, and it was really expensive, it was like $2,000. I had a little tiny GPS, the little, for those of you who have been flying for a while, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I forgot the model number, but little tiny GPS. And when GPS was really starting to get popular, but we didn't have iPhones or anything. And so I had a little tiny rubber antenna that would stick up, and you could plug a hockey puck in the dash to get a better GPS signal. And it was just a monochrome screen, and it had basically nothing like we have now. You could plug in some waypoints, and it would show you your time. And at the time, we thought this was incredible information. Look how much better this is. Compared to now, it's nothing. So, all right. I think that is about it. I kept you here for a little longer than the hour. I am so excited that this chat window worked. So much didn't work tonight with the camera and had to quickly move things around. But this little chat window works. So that's great. Also, that means you have to be careful what you type because everyone's going to see it now. All right. That is it for tonight. Is there any other questions? Is there any other videos you would like to see? Anybody out there looking to get their pilot's license? If so, put that in the comments. All right. All right, great. All right, sounds like that is it. And I see folks starting to drop off, which means people are done for the night. And with that, I am going to be done for the night too. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for sticking with me again for the technical difficulties in the beginning. We will get that figured out. All right, thanks, everybody. Have a great night. Bye-bye.